Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the National Council on Patient Information and Education, I'm pleased to welcome everyone to today's Pass It Forward Video Challenge webinar. This is the second in a series of webinars designed to promote awareness about the Pass It Forward Video Challenge and to provide helpful advice about creating an impactful video submission from a great team who are volunteering their time and expertise to the project today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are going to be taking part in a poll today. So on your screen, you should see some questions, and we'd like you to answer them. So if you could just take a few minutes to go ahead and answer the questions as people are logging on, that would be wonderful. Okay, we're going to close the poll. Let's see who we have on the line. All right, so we have a lot of others on the line. That's great. And a lot of community anti-drug coalitions, and we also have some students on the line who are up to 25 years old. So let's move on. I'm going to kick it back to Ray. Ray?
Okay. Thank you, Barb. As you see on your screen, we have a full and interactive agenda planned for today's webinar, and as we'll see in the next few slides, we'll go ahead and get started. First is a very brief recap of our first webinar, which we held on April the 25th, and I wanted to let you know that that webinar is posted for rewatching as needed on www.passitforward.info. The purpose of the Pass It Forward Video Challenge, which is open to young people aged 18 to 25, is to stimulate awareness and creative thinking in planning and use of SAMHSA-developed and supported educational resources focusing on prescription drug abuse prevention and recovery-oriented systems of care. Messaging from up to 5 of the Video Challenge websites are to be featured in the videos that are created. And here's the call to action for the Pass It Forward Video Challenge: to create a 2-minute video that answers the question, what creative strategies can help ensure that these 5 web-based tools reach every college campus and community across the country? And we're encouraging the follow-on, how would you use social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, text messaging, for example, to pass forward the messages. Here's a screen grab of the 5 sites that can provide the content for video submissions. Again, be sure to encourage anyone that may be thinking about entering the Pass It Forward Video Challenge to visit www.passitforward.info. That's a one-stop shop for all the video challenge details. This slide reiterates some of the reasons why young people should want to get involved in the Pass It Forward Video Challenge. And here we've highlighted the next key dates in the Pass It Forward Video Challenge. The first is Friday, June the 7th. That's when all the video submissions are due and the challenge ends. The next key date is Thursday, June 27th, the date that the video challengers will be announced. Let me next turn, by way of a question, to Natalia Martinez-Duncan, Communications Manager at CADCA. Natalia, why does video make sense in the substance abuse prevention world, and especially for the Pass It Forward target audience?
Thanks so much. Yeah, so here at CADCA, we actually do use video quite a bit. I think it absolutely makes sense in the substance abuse prevention, treatment, and recovery world. I mean, for a variety of reasons, mainly video is a really powerful tool that, allows you to really kind of give a message in a very quick and visual way. And so we often use it here at CADCA to tell stories of things that our members are doing throughout the country to try to address drug abuse. really allows you to be personal and to really be upfront. And it also gives you an opportunity to be instructional and to have some teaching moments, and that's something we always do in our videos, whether it's somewhere in the middle or toward the end of the video. We often provide some bulleted points of, well, what does this mean to you, and how can you apply it to what you're doing in your community. So absolutely, it certainly does make sense for the substance abuse prevention world.
Well, thank you, Natalia. And as Ray just whispered to me, and I think Pat's going to reiterate this later, that pictures really tell 1,000 words. You can put lots of words on the screen like they are here, but boy, can pictures say powerful things without even saying anything. Now I'm going to move on to the second poll. How many of you use video to promote messages? All the time, sometimes, or just beginning in this process? So if you all could please take a couple of minutes to answer this question. Okay, this is what we look like. Okay, so very interesting that most of us are really in that just beginning stages. And we have almost half as sometimes, and then many of you or some of you have said all the time. And with that, I'd really like to segue and introduce someone who's very special to me, who happens to be a video producer. She is my sister, Pat Ginniger-Snyder. She is the partner and director of production at Rembrandt Films, and she's going to be walking us through a video tutorial. And Pat, I'm kicking it over to you. Oh.
Okay, so just again to take one step back, this is basically what I'm going to be doing with you for the next 15 minutes or so, is to really go into Production 101. And for anybody who is a producer out there who has created videos, I apologize for this redundancy, but I think that it'll really be good, even if you do know a lot about it, just to get a sense of how to even make your work even better. So again, the first step in starting this process is to think about three main things. Again, you want your videos to speak to the audience, and in this case, it's individuals ages 18 to 25. So what does that mean, how it should speak to young people? First of all, whatever your narration is going to be, that's who your audience is. What kind of images you show, that's who you want to reach. And that really changes it a lot. For example, if you were going to be doing something for senior citizens, perhaps you would have slower music, and that's not so hip. But for this age group, you really do want to speak to the people who you're producing for. And two very important things that are very important to this entire challenge is that it's important for you to reflect the messages on those selected websites, those 5 websites. So you should all go into those 5 websites so that you really know them, and you get a picture of what the purpose of each of those websites are, and also what they're each doing visually to present their messages. And in any way, shape, or form, you should try to duplicate those kinds of images. And number 3 is how, in your video, the big goal is how can you use the social media to pass it forward. So you really want to be able to take images and take pieces from Facebook and from Twitter and from blogging, just again to show people what the goal is. Okay, next please. So, Production 101. The very first thing that I do with every production is to try to write down those key message points. And those would be, for example, what we saw on that previous slide. But also, what are the key message points of those websites? That's why it's really important for you to be very familiar with your materials. So go to all those websites, and I would say in one line, try to find out what that key message is for that site. And then once you have that, you can really begin to develop your flow of your video. And when I say flow, what I'm really talking about is what your video is going to look like. So you really have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's like writing a short story only in video. So you want to state what your purpose is at the beginning. You want to show all those pieces throughout the middle, and at the very end, you really want to hit people hard with an emotional appeal to why this is so important and how whatever people do can reach even a bigger audience. Next slide, please. Okay, so once you have your outline, the next step is to write the script. And what I have here is an example of what a script might look like. I mean, I just sort of pulled this together. It's for this particular project. And the most important piece is if you look at the slide in front of us, you see that it's divided into two sections. One is the audio, the other is the video. So once you have your script, you put it on that left side. And as you can see, the way I write the script is that I don't like to write necessarily in full sentences, or if it is a full sentence, I'll divide it up in a way that I think that people might be, how they might say it. So, for example, if you see what the narrator says, he or she might say 5 websites about substance abuse and recovery to help, to educate, to inspire, to pass it forward. So again, you can just really see it's very, very important. The difference between script writing and prose writing is that you really have to be sure that it sounds right. And if, for example, you're starting to stumble over certain words, that you really do have to start to think, well, maybe I shouldn't say it that way. So again, script writing is, the art to script writing is keeping it simple. It's almost like writing poetry as opposed to prose. And then on the right side of your screen, you see the video. So once you have your script on the left, then what you start to do is to fill in on the right the kinds of things that you're going to use to illustrate what your words say. For example, to help educate, to inspire, and to pass it forward, what I might do with that is just use graphics, just use words that might go flying across the screen that say help, educate, inspire, pass it forward. It might just be as simple as that. You know, keeping it simple is almost more powerful than doing too much. So again, the key to this is separating your script into the audio side and the video side. Next slide, please. So again, when you start to think about how am I going to illustrate my script, well, there really are, in my opinion, just three main elements actually. One is through maybe you will see your narrator on the screen, who will actually be talking to the audience. Number 2, another way to do it is through still photographs. And again, you can do a lot of things with still photographs. I don't know how many of you have Macs, which I happen to be a Mac person. But in iMovie, you have access to a lot of things, including the Ken Burns effects, which can make images fade in and out. It can make them move. It can do a lot of different things. But even if you just put an image on the screen, again, picture tells 1,000 words. The other thing that you might be able to put in is if you all are experienced videographers, you can actually insert actual video in addition to the still photographs and your narrator. Next slide, please. So that's what I'm saying here is that you can use still photographs, you use video footage, and again, the third point is interesting graphics. Again, remember at the very beginning I just was describing, you know, if I was just going to see the word to inspire others, you just have to take some interesting graphics, and again, there's some interesting programs that are built into our computers these days that you can really make graphics move. And the fourth point here, which isn't what you see, but it's what you hear, and that is music. And as you'll see in the example that we're going to watch in about a minute, music really can set the pace of a video. In fact, many times I'll edit to music because it'll tell me the rhythm of where to cut something or where to put an image. Just somehow things work that way, that music can really lead you. And again, if those of you who weren't on the webinar the last time, it's very important for you not to pick music that for example, is sung by a famous song group. Because it's the rights. Because this is a project for nonprofits and the federal government, it's really important for us to have all music rights cleared. So it's important for you to do that. The video that I'm actually going to show you, I'm totally breaking that rule, but I wanted you to see how I just used music for this particular project that was not broadcast. So, okay, next please. Okay, so a couple of days ago, Barb sent out a homework assignment, and I know that everybody has busy lives, so it was possible that many of you weren't able to watch the 3 videos that we were hoping that you might look at before today's webinar. Next slide, please. But if by chance you had, and if you haven't, please take the time to look at these. They're very short. For example, this first video is just 1 minute and 18 seconds. And as you're watching these videos, I really want you to be thinking about a couple of things. In this first one, for example, I really would love for you to see how it was scripted. And in this case, you actually don't see the narrator, you just hear the narrator. Also, it would be great for you as you watch this video to see how the narrator used the video footage and the graphics to illustrate his point. So it's just 1 minute and 18 seconds, but if you watch it and you use these two critical viewing skills, I think you'll really have a sense of how he put it together. Next slide, please. The second video, where it differs from the first one, is that this narrator, you actually see him. In fact, you can actually see him in this YouTube photograph. And in this case, he used video footage and graphics to illustrate the narration, which is the script. But again, the difference here is that the narrator is seen on screen. Okay, next, please. This next video is actually one that I produced for a nonprofit organization. And again, it was not broadcast. I did use the music Brighter Than the Sun because this nonprofit organization uses this music as a way to inspire people to join, to be part of this organization. So the difference between this video and the other two is that I did not use a narrator. Instead, I allowed the music and the still photographs and the video to tell the story. Now, what you're about to see, which is very short, it's about 1 minute total, is a combination of two videos that I produced for Caring for Cambodia. And the first one is a video called Be Bothered, Do Something. And it is a video for teenagers, encouraging teenagers to be volunteers, not just in Caring for Cambodia, but for all organizations. You know, just take the time, be bothered to do something about this world. And so in doing this, I really wanted young people to speak to other young people. So at the very beginning, you will see our narrators. They're at the beginning, and then I use their voices throughout the video to tell the story, and then they come back at the very end. So at the beginning, you'll see them telling people why they should be bothered, and then the narration begins about the story, and then about halfway through this video, you'll see a second video, and you almost can't tell that it is a second video, but it is video number 3 that we see right here on the screen, which is the video I did for Brighter Than the Sun. And again, I just pulled a short excerpt from that, and as soon as that comes on, you'll know it because the music is much louder, and no narration, and you'll see how the still photos go very fast, and there's also some video, and then I stop it. When the music has a tiny pause, I stop it, and then I put in a piece of an interview of somebody that I had worked with. So Barb, if you could roll the video, hopefully this will work.
Yep, let's see. Okay, here we go. Loading video.
Be bothered. Be bothered. Be bothered. Be bothered. Be bothered.
Be bothered.
Be bothered. Be bothered.
Be bothered.
What's it mean?
Be bothered that in Cambodia almost 40 years ago, the Khmer Rouge took over this beautiful country and forced all of its people into the countryside to work the land, depriving all of their rights. No free thought, no freedom. Anyone with a mind was singled out and eliminated, even people who just wore glasses.
I remember the first school that we had there and the ribbon cutting, and it was a huge deal.
Stop me on the corner where you hit me like a vision. I wasn't expecting, but who am I to tell fate where it's supposed to go with it? Don't you blink, you might miss it.
Okay, so now that you really see the process, really, and that's really the end process, I really want to go into now the production. Pre-production, again, is pulling all your pieces together, writing your script so that on the day that you go out to shoot, that you are very planned, that you know exactly what you're going to shoot. So again, in your videotaping, my suggestion is that you tape your narrator because, again, your narrator tells the story. If you decide not to use a narrator, that's totally cool too. And then what you also might want to do, what you would want to do, is to tape video to illustrate your script. Excuse me. And also, if you are going to tape the websites, the 5 websites, to illustrate your points, you could do that. You could just have your camera focused on your monitor, your computer monitor, and videotape that. You know, you should again be sure that it looks okay. Otherwise, maybe take still photos instead. Okay, Barb. So in taking still photos, it's to illustrate your points. I would think the easiest thing for many people to do is to take photos of your friends, your friends and family to illustrate the narration. That's one thing that I do quite often. In the videos that I produce, I might sneak in a photograph of my sister or my nephew or my mother or my daughter. Over the years, I've done it many, many times, or my daughter's best friend. So again, if this age group is 18 to 25 and you have people in your life who fit that category, then by all means, please take photos of them. The second thing, as I said, was to take photographs of the websites. Next slide, please. We also want to tell you that as a part of this project, we are creating a Dropbox for you all, and we're calling it is the Pass It Forward tool bag, and inside of it, it will contain these 2 PowerPoint presentations, from which you'll be able to create JPEG files of each of the individual photographs that were in these presentations, so you'll have access to them. And we're also going to put in some still photos that you'll have access to. Again, all the rights are cleared for them, and we'll probably put about 15 or 20 photos in there. And please feel free to use them in your presentations as well. And again, they're going to be available through Nick Pye's Dropbox, and you'll get a notice about this from Barb. Okay, next slide, please. One thing I also want to do, in editing. Well, let me just go back to the still photographs. It's very important in your stills and also in your videos to have release forms for anybody who you use in the video, because again, these videos are going to be put on the web and hopefully and used for other purposes. So please make sure that you get a release form. Agreement by people that it's okay to use their image. Okay. For those of you who have never edited before, my suggestion is that you keep it simple. And the first step you make is to put in the narration. That is to bring in your narration that you taped and put it into your editing program. The second thing that I would also suggest is to lay down your music, because if you have music that's going to drive the rhythm of your video, the music will really help guide you in that process. And then, once you have those 2 elements in, that's when I would start covering the narration with images and with graphics. Okay, next, please. So again, it's really it should be a fun and easy process. For those of you who have produced this before, this is a great opportunity for you to express your creativity in all kinds of ways. And the way that we would like to receive it is to receive it as either an MPEG-4 file or a movie file, a Windows Media file. And the best way to get it to us is by posting it up on YouTube. Next slide, please. Is to post it on YouTube. And the way you should do it is as an unlisted video. And you can see on the right of that screen under the privacy settings, you have 3 choices. You can either go public, which means everybody has access to it, or you can do it unlisted or private. We'd like for you to do it as unlisted, and then send send the URL that you see written in blue, which is the direct link on YouTube, and send it to. And can you go back to the previous slide? send it to Cooper at nicpi.info. So again, that's the best way to get it to us, is you post it on YouTube as a private in the private setting, and then send that link, the URL link, to Barb.
Okay, we have one other question for you, and that is, are you planning on submitting a video? Yes, no, or not sure. So if you could please take a couple of minutes to answer, that would be great. There we are. And now I'd like to pose a question to Tara, and here we go here. Tara James, who's the Outreach and Engagement Manager for Spark Action. And Tara, this is the question I have for you. How do social media and video support each other when delivering social issue messages?
Hi, Barb. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm, I can.
Great. Never sure if I get the unmute off correctly or not. So your question is a really good one, and the answer is actually very simple. Connecting social media with video helps you expand your reach, and it really helps you engage your audience, because people love to see images and they love to see videos. They love to have interactive content on their social media. So we really suggest that not only do you incorporate social media into your video, but you also think very deliberately about how you can promote your video with social media. So when I say incorporate social media into your video, it can be as simple as including links to your Facebook, Twitter, YouTube accounts, other social media that you use in your video, maybe as part of your credit slide or something along those lines, or you can embed it in the video in a creative way, you know, having a screenshot of somebody who's actually tweeting or posting on Facebook. The thinking about how you're going to actually promote the video using social media is really about thinking about your network and what you want to share with them and what will engage them. So we really suggest that when you post something on Facebook or on Twitter that you feature screenshots, and that can be very easy to do. You know, you've got a screenshot of your video that you can post through an attached photo on Facebook or on Twitter. You can include links to your video, lots of different options. And we always suggest that you use a Bitly link for those. And Bitly is a service that's completely free. It's web-based. Basically, you grab a URL or a web address from your location, and then you paste it into Bitly, and it will give you a condensed link that's very short and very social media friendly. And the bonus of this is not only do you save characters, because like Twitter, you only have 140 characters to work with, so you want your links to be very short and compact, but it also gives you analytics so that when you do tweet a link to your video or to a photo of a screenshot from your video, you can see how many people clicked on that tweet, and you can have a good idea of how people are responding to it, and you can use what you learn from that to improve your social media down the road.
Okay. And you know, Tara, when I was looking at your slides a couple of days ago, I was struck by how there is such a strong connection between social media and video, and that a lot of the things that you were talking about, really Pat was talking about, that social media engages your audience and it expands your reach. So too does video. And that's why having a marriage between these two makes a lot of sense. So thank you. And next, this is your turn, you all. I'm going to unmute all the lines, and it's your turn to ask questions. So what I can do, if you have a question, just go ahead and raise your hand, and just like we're in a big classroom, I'll go ahead and respond to that question. Okay, so here we go. I'm unmuting everybody.
The conference has been unmuted.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, well, we had one question that came in, And Natalia, this is for you. This question came in from Maryland. I'm thinking about featuring Recovery Opens Doors and National Recovery Month in my video. When you're presenting substance abuse prevention messages in a video, are there key elements you should always consider?
That's a really good question. I think for the type of video, if you're going to be doing the Recovery Open Doors, that's that's more focused on recovery versus prevention. So that's a slightly different animal than the type of video we would normally do at CADCA. But in terms of, I'm sure there are some general elements that should be in there that maybe Pat can answer because she's done a lot of the videos for us for CADCA.
Oh, that's a good idea. Pat, do you want to respond to that?
Well, yeah, again, what's so important, if you're showing, if for example, you're showing recovery as an example versus prevention. For recovery, perhaps, you might want to show, which we did with Recovery Opens Doors, was a lot of young people who were in recovery who looked really happy, who were living full lives, who were doing interesting things, who were both advocates and also participants in their whole in their lives.